Good morning, everyone. As we wait for others to connect, I wanted to thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Rachel Rosen. I'm the Communications Director for Democratic Majority for Israel. On behalf of our entire staff, our president, Mark Melman, our board, and our board co-chairs, Todd Richmond and Ann Lewis, who are with us today, welcome. We hope everyone's having a great summer, relaxing summer. In just a minute, I'm going to turn it over to our board member, Megan Stabler, to introduce our distinguished guest today. But first, I wanted to go over a couple of housekeeping items. If you like what you're hearing today, as you can see it in the graphic, we encourage you to please follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. You can sign up for our emails and our updates at dmfi.org. And if you'd like to submit a question during the Zoom today, you can type it in to the Q&A box. And if you're on Facebook, you can type it into the comment section. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our board member, Megan Stabler. Megan?
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. Be strong and courageous. Those are the recent words of our guest speaker today, Israeli Health Minister Nitzan Horowitz. 3 years ago, Minister Horowitz was elected chairman of the Meretz Party, and since then, he's led the movement in 3 consecutive election cycles. As health minister, Nitzan oversaw the health system during each wave of COVID. Whilst doing so, he did not neglect the major challenges in the health system. And in the spirit of Meretz's social democracy and social justice, he prioritized mental health, as well as the unenviable task of managing Israel's health service through the ongoing pandemic. Mr. Horowitz is proud of the advancements he has pushed forward for women and for LGBTQ equality. He issued a Director General circular that forbids the harmful, scientifically discredited practice of conversion therapy, with violation of this order likely to lead to the revocation of a therapist's license. He made it easier for a woman to make decisions about her body and ended the ban on gay men donating blood, becoming one of the first to donate blood himself. He also made gender-affirming surgery more accessible to transgender people. One of the achievements Horowitz is most proud of is the High Court Justice ruling last July that allowed same-sex couples and single men that they should be able to have children through a surrogate. Finally, Minister Horowitz is working hard to both defend democracy and to keep the two-state solution alive within Israel and beyond. On behalf of the Democratic Majority for Israel, please welcome Health Minister Nitzan Horowitz to the conversation on President Biden's very recent trip to Israel, his work to advance LGBTQ rights, and other topics. Minister Horowitz, welcome.
Thank you, Megan. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you, everybody. It's really a pleasure being with you. It's a good opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing here in Israel on the progressive front, LGBT issues, abortions, human rights, and of course, our support for the two-state solution and a peaceful end to the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, I'm the chairman of a progressive party called Meretz. I was elected as chairman of the party more than 3 years ago. And our party is a pro-peace, progressive, social democratic party, advocating social justice, the environment, and of course, human rights. I was privileged to get the health portfolio, and I didn't wait a long time, and I pushed forward many reforms. First of all, as Megan mentioned, the LGBT issue. Unfortunately, LGBTQ people in Israel suffered discrimination, and it had a strong effect on their health. People were unable to get the proper treatment because of all sorts of obstacles in the health system, like some of them you have in the US. We removed most of the obstacles. For instance, conversion therapy. I don't see it as a therapy. We declared this practice as forbidden under Israeli regulation because it causes a lot of harm, especially to young people. We had many cases of young people, teenagers who trying to commit suicide after having this conversion therapy. So as you know, under our authority as the Ministry of Health, we put an order to stop conversion therapies by psychologists, and this is being done. And I think we already saved some lives in doing that. Another example is the abortion reform that I initiated. Abortion is legal in Israel. And we see this issue as a matter of the woman to decide over her life and body. And this is a sovereign decision by the woman to make. And to make it easier and more accessible for the woman to exercise her decision, we sort of changed the regulations so that she doesn't have to appear before the committee. We used to have it. We still have a committee that is sort of approving the request for abortion. Now you don't have to appear physically before this committee. It's enough to send a letter from your doctor, personal doctor, with a request to make an abortion, and it will be approved, and you will do it. You can do it in a public hospital, free of charge. You can also, and this is another novelty, you can do it in a clinic in your HMO, one of your national HMOs. We have a universal healthcare system in Israel, of course, free of charge. And until the 12th week of the pregnancy, it will be able, you will be able to do it with a medicine, without going to the hospital, without a committee. And so this will be very easy, very accessible, very, I think, respectable, so that women would be able to decide on their future, on their, on their health, and it is solely up to the woman to do that. And we ensured that this would be the case for each and every woman in Israel, whether she's rich or poor, whether she's living in a remote area or in a center. This is guaranteed for her, for everybody. I know that in the US things are going the other way, and I'm pleased that Israel is giving the right example. As for the political issue, generally speaking, we still believe that the right solution for the Israeli-Palestinian conflict is the two-state solution, creating an independent Palestinian state side by side with Israel in peace and security. This will serve the interests of both Israelis and Palestinians. I'm talking from the point of view of a Zionist. I'm a Zionist. I believe in Israel as a Jewish and democratic nation. As such, we cannot maintain our control over millions of stateless Palestinians. This is not democracy. This is not Jewish. This is occupation. This is oppression. And I think Israel, as a democracy, as a Jewish nation, should behave differently. We see an opportunity, and nowadays with your administration, with your president, he was here last week. He said those things as well. We see an opportunity with our government and with your administration to put forward a sort of a peace plan so that the Palestinians and us would go back to the negotiation table and we would discuss how to bring about the two-state solution. I think this is possible. This is not utopic. This is not imagination. This is reality. We should stop the bloodshed, and we should realize, both Israelis and Palestinians should realize the fact that there are some millions of Israelis living here, some millions of Palestinians living here, and we have to find a way to share this land and to live together. And I think that this two-state solution, maybe it's the only way to ensure that. Now, I would be happy to take any question. Feel free. We are very proud with our health system. It's very different from the American one. Here, every person is entitled to have a full medical insurance guaranteed by the state, and it is provided by one of our 4 HMOs, national HMOs, and you can choose which one. And the money that you pay is according to your salary. Okay, there is a certain amount of tax, small one, that is taken out of your salary, and this is financing the health system in Israel. And with that, we had very good results during COVID, since everyone has a clinic next to home. So we could be very fast in giving the vaccines. We could be very fast in doing the tests and everything else. And so we were very successful in dealing with the COVID effectively. This is why we had, we still had some death cases, but much less than other countries. So we are very proud with that as well. So please ask whatever you want, and I would be happy to answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister Horowitz. It's really a pleasure to have you with us today. I wanted to ask a little bit about your impressions of President Biden's trip to Israel, his first trip as president, I think his 10th maybe in his career. Did you get to meet with him or any other U.S. officials? And what were the big takeaways from that trip for you? What do you think more broadly the sort of status of the U.S.-Israel relationship is today?
We were quite impressed and happy with President Biden's visit here. He came over as very sincere in his feelings towards Israel. He said, you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist, for instance. He said so. And he was very sincere in saying that. You saw that he loves this country. He loves the people. He was received really warmly by the people all over. And he was very authentic, very talkative. He was very, I think he was happy being here. And also the discussions were going on fine. Israel has disagreement with the US administration concerning the Iran nuclear deal, but still I think that we were able to forge some sort of common strategy regarding Iran. And I must say that the president emphasized that under his leadership, Iran would not have nuclear weapon. And this was very important to hear from the American leadership. He was also very, I think, straightforward regarding the Palestinian issue. As you know, during his visit here, he met the president of the Palestinian Authority. He visited Bethlehem, and over there and over here, he was saying, as I said, by the way, that the two-state solution is the only viable and the just solution, and he supports this solution. Now, I can say that we expect, I mean, at least our side of the government, the progressive side, we expect the US to put a little bit more effort into putting forward, let's say, a plan or a deal, or getting the parties to discuss some issues together. And we would be happy that if the US is engaged in advancing this issue. But it was encouraging to hear your president talking about it. So I think this visit was extremely successful. It was emotional, and I think it touched many hearts in Israel.
Great. One of the diplomatic agreements that was announced near the conclusion of the trip was that the Saudis will open their airspace for Israeli and civilian planes to travel. What sort of impact do you think that will have? Do you think that is maybe another step to wider agreements with Arab states?
Absolutely. I think this is a very important step forward. You know that Saudi Arabia is maybe the second most important Arab country after Egypt. And the holiest places of Islam are in the Saudi kingdom. And so far, there were no steps of normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel. Now, letting Israeli airplanes and other commercial flights passing through Saudi territory is extremely important. You know, all the flights from Israel to the eastern side, to Asia, to India, to China, to Southeast Asia, Australia. If you want to make it, the shortest way is over Saudi Arabia. Since we had, for many years, we had to go around Saudi Arabia, more than 2 hours of delay. So you imagine the time, the price, and so now it will be able to fly from Tel Aviv to Delhi in about 5 hours, same time as you fly from here to London. So it will be of great help for Israel. And this is also a sign that the Saudis are ready for opening up the relations with Israel, to be more, to come out with that, and to be more visible, okay, with their relations with Israel. I think this is also an important sign for other Arab countries that maybe would follow the Saudis, that we already have excellent relations with the Emirates, with Bahrain, with Jordan, with Egypt, with Morocco, with some other countries. Now with Saudi Arabia joining in, this is extremely important. But it's important to emphasize, it shouldn't be on the expense of the relations with the Palestinians. The Israeli-Palestinian conflict is still the most urgent and important conflict. This is this is where the flames are. Our soldiers are there. We should first solve the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but maybe these relations with Saudi Arabia would help promoting the Israeli-Palestinian solution as well. I'm hopeful.
Minister Horowitz, you've done so much work to advance LGBTQ rights and improve the lives of Israel's LGBTQ citizens there. Did you receive much pushback on any particular initiatives, and what work is left to still be done?
Well, we have some groups in Israel, very conservative, ultra-religious groups that are trying to, to put all sorts of obstacles and to try to block any advancement on the LGBT issue. They were unsuccessful in stopping me. I must tell you frankly, I'm not afraid of them. And we took advantage of the fact that we are in power. We are part of the government now in Israel after many years in the opposition. And we took this opportunity and we changed things according to our perspective, which is human rights first. And LGBT people are people, and they deserve human rights. They deserve equal health, and they deserve everything like everybody else. Now, look, there's still an issue which bother us, and that is marriage. With marriage, it's a bit complicated. Israel doesn't have the separation of state and church as you have in the States. So, family issues are the religious issues under your religion. So with issues of marriage, we should go to the rabbinical courts, etc., etc. And with them, LGBT are not acceptable. So this is the only thing, the actual only thing that still is on our way. We're trying to solve it. We recognize the, same-sex partnership and stuff like that, but not marriage yet. This is the only thing left to amend. But on every practical aspect of life, LGBT people in Israel are free to do whatever they want and to have whatever right other people have. And with health, for me, this was the most crucial thing, because I think the most important human right is the right for your own body, for your own health, for your own life and condition. And so if you're in poor health, nothing matters, nothing else. And so this is my attitude towards LGBT issues and also for women's issues. So I see those two things connected, and I'm happy for the change. We were fighting for this for many years. Now it's happening. Very exciting.
It is very exciting and very impactful, to be sure. And thank you for your leadership on that issue and so many others. We're getting a lot of questions from our attendees on COVID, and you oversaw Israel's COVID response as health minister. And we have a question from Michael that asks, can you discuss the latest research regarding the COVID variant vaccine? I understand clinical trials have started. I don't know if you can speak to that, but could you talk more broadly about your Israel strategy over the past two and a half years?
Well, we do not produce vaccines in Israel. We purchase them from different pharmaceutical companies, some American companies, some other European companies, etc. And we have a whole variety of vaccines here in Israel. We found out here in Israel, we made the research, a very profound research, because all the data is concentrated in the Ministry of Health and we have access to the results. And so we found out that the vaccines are perfectly safe. And this is why we recommend it. Vaccines are not obligatory in Israel. Of course, it's up to you to decide whether you want it or not. But we recommend it, especially for old people, to get the third and the fourth vaccine. Nowadays, most of the old people above 60 in Israel got the fourth vaccine. It proved to be very effective against strong illness, against severe illness, against hospitalization. Not entirely against infection. You can still get infected, but the chances that you develop a condition that would require hospitalization is quite minimal. And many lives were saved because of our decision to administer the third and the fourth vaccine. As for the future, we discussed with the pharmaceutical companies, this issue of giving a vaccine every half a year or every 6 months is not something that we would like to continue to do. And we are striving towards a situation where this COVID vaccine would be given once a year, like the flu vaccine, once a year. This is possible to do. I think this would be the next step. First of all, I think, end of this year or maybe less, October, maybe month of October, there would be a new vaccine, COVID vaccine, suitable for the new variants. And maybe this would be a yearly vaccine. I mean, this would be a vaccine that we recommend people to have, and then it would hold and it would be effective for the entire year. I think this is where we are going, so that the whole policy regarding COVID would be eventually like another I don't know, another virus like flu or like other diseases that we're dealing with. This is where we are going. Nowadays, there are no restrictions in Israel whatsoever. There is a recommendation whatsoever, nevertheless, to put the mask in closed rooms, in public transportations, etc., especially for older people, the most vulnerable. So we could recommend them. It's not that they don't have to do it, but it's recommendable that they put the mask to protect themselves. But this is the only thing. And of course, we have medicine that we give to people who got infected, especially old people. We have the vaccines, we have information, etc., etc., and it's going on fine. So for now, I think I'm quite pleased with the way we're dealing with COVID in Israel.
It sounds like you think COVID will be a part of our lives for a very long time.
Yeah, unfortunately, I must say, I'm sorry to say, but as far as we understand, this is not going to leave us very soon, unfortunately. And this will be with us for some years now. I don't know how long. So we have to find a way to live side by side with COVID. We cannot go through those lockdowns again. It had a very, very negative effect, not just on our economy, on mental health and other issues as well. And we have to find a way to live normally with COVID. I mean, to take precautions, to do the vaccines, everything, all the envelope around it, but to live normally. And that's what we're trying to do now.
Mr. Horowitz, I wanted to ask you a little bit about ever-changing Israeli politics. I know that you recently announced that you will be stepping down as the leader of the Meretz party. I was hoping you could tell us why, and would love to get your larger take on the political landscape there.
Look, Rachel, we have a very bizarre situation, political situation in Israel, where now we're heading towards the fifth round of election in less than 3 years. Could you imagine that? That's a world record, I think. Fifth round of election in less than 5 years. This is in less than 3 years. Look, this is quite crazy. I mean, this is very hard for a politician to endure. And I was leading my party in the last rounds of elections. And also I'm health minister during those COVID waves. And we're part of the government, which is a very complicated government. And after some years doing that, I decided, more on a personal note, that I should maybe give this opportunity to someone else. I'm staying in the party. I will be part of the list. I will be a member of our parliament, our Knesset, and I am the Minister of Health, maybe for a long time now. But as a party leader, well, our party is a people's party. I mean, it's like a movement, and so we change, and I think it's a good thing to change from time to time. I'm staying with the party. I'm proud of what I did, and somebody else for the fifth round of election will lead the party in a few months. I will help this person, and I'm sure we will be successful.
That's great. Okay, we have a question from Michael, and Michael asks, I'm impressed by the Israeli government's position on abortion and LGBTQ issues. So often progressives in the US and elsewhere are critical of Israel. How can Israel do a better job of promoting the fact that in so many ways it is an inclusive and more egalitarian society than most people realize?
Well, Michael, thank you for the question. It is important to show that. Maybe we don't show that enough. Well, this is an opportunity to share what we're doing here. It's true that on many issues, Israel is quite progressive. It's true. On LGBT issues, on women's rights. It's true. We are progressive. Well, unfortunately, on some other issues, well, it's more problematic, especially the Palestinian issue. But still, I think what Israel is doing on the LGBTQ issue and on abortions is admirable. And we had quite an extensive media coverage of our latest decisions on that. And so I'm happy with that. So that maybe many people around the world came to realize what we're doing here. We're not we're a small country compared to other big countries. So maybe news of coming out of Israel are not very widely seen. Maybe I get your recommendation to talk more about it and to show other people that what we're doing here, maybe they would follow us. I think that on abortions and LGBT issues, no doubt, many countries can take the example of Israel, because look, I am gay myself. I'm part of the LGBT community. I live with my partner here in Tel Aviv for almost 20 years now. We have also a dog. That's very important. But I can live here, and I'm also a cabinet minister, of course. But I can live here as a completely free, with no kind of discrimination whatsoever at work, at the hospital, at school, no discrimination. LGBT people are completely equal. Yeah, I mentioned the issue of marriage, but all the rights as a couple are preserved. For instance, for me and my partner, even though that we are not officially married, but we are seen as if we were married by Israeli law. So we didn't have a wedding, and we didn't have to register our partnership. If we break up, or God forbid, if someone dies, the partner can inherit his part even without a will, okay? Because he's considered as if he was the husband or wife of that person. Okay, so that's very important to understand. So practically speaking, gay or LGBT people in Israel are, I don't see any, well, there is some violence against us, from conservative, for all sorts of hooligans from time to time, harassments, but the police is dealing with that, and there are laws against it, and everybody is denouncing that. Beyond that, if we talk about legal rights, human rights, health rights, gay, LGBT people in Israel are completely equal, and they have all the rights guaranteed by the courts and by the state. And this is very important. It enables people like me to live here freely with no problems whatsoever. And it's a fact that many LGBT tourists are coming to Israel for all sorts of what have you, gay prides and parties and stuff like that as tourists, and they enjoy their stay here very much, like other tourists, like people who come here for the holy places, for Jesus, etc. Both groups enjoy their stay in Israel.
It's certainly a magnificent country. And that, speaking of tourism, Edward asks if COVID hurt tourism a good bit over the past couple of years.
Yeah, unfortunately, like many other countries, COVID hurt the tourism industry in Israel. For almost 2 years, there were no tourists at all, like most of other countries. Now everything is opening up. There are no more restrictions whatsoever on tourists regarding COVID. And so many people are coming. Many people are coming. Hotels are full. Still not in the degree that it was before COVID, 2019 or 18, but we're getting it. We're getting there. More people are coming. Now it's booming. Quite expensive, I must say, in Israel, hotel rooms, but you can find other arrangements. And we are very optimistic about it. Yeah, it's coming back.
That's great to hear. I want to ask you a question, Minister, from our board member, Megan Stabler, who introduced you earlier. I think she had to hop off for another commitment, but she asks, how do you see the progressive democracy of Israel having an impact on the new emerging relations with the Saudis, UAE, et cetera? Can there be collective change that continues to strengthen the relationship and bring more openness within equality and equity within those countries?
Look, this is a tough question. It's a question not just for Israel. It's a question of regarding each and every democracy dealing with other countries which are not democratic. Unfortunately, half of the world is not democratic. And it's not just some Arabic nations, but other countries like, I don't know, Russia or other countries nowadays, which are not democratic, unfortunately. Now, I think part of foreign relations or part of democracy is trying to influence other countries in adopting democratic measures. Okay, I think this is part of our vocation as a democratic nation, and also maybe as a Jewish nation. We say tikkun olam. I'm sure you understand this term in Hebrew, fixing the world. Okay, now, unfortunately, now we have to recognize this. We are unable to change the regime in other countries. Unfortunately, we cannot do it. We can try to influence. I think, for instance, with the gay issue, with the LGBT issue, by exposing what we're doing in Israel to our neighbors, Arab neighbors, they see what's going on in our country, and maybe they change, themselves. They adopt some of those issues. You see, I think that there is a change. Now, this is the way to do it. You have friendly relations with someone. Now, this someone is visiting your country. He has this person. I mean, they have exchange of many things with you, so they might be influenced by what you're doing. That's maybe exporting the spirit of democracy. Now, by all means, I believe that we should do that with our neighbors, but without pushing them too much. That's their own country and sovereignty, and they should fix their own affairs. So yeah, that's always a dilemma, how far you should go in having friendships with the countries that are not democratic. That's also a dilemma for the US, for a long time. That's not an Israeli issue only. But I think by opening up, by making ties with other new countries, that's the way to do it. They come over, they see, they learn, we talk, there is communication, and then maybe there is some influence. That's what I believe in.
Mr. Horowitz, you talked a lot about the need for a two-state solution, and that's a position that Democratic Majority for Israel also supports. And we have a question from Gary about that. And Gary says, it'll be necessary for a two-state solution to have a partner on the Palestinian side. How open do you think Abbas and the Palestinian Authority are to this?
Well, Gary, I think that Abbas is very open to this idea. I met him personally many times, and we discussed together this issue. I think Abbas is a partner. I think Abbas is a leader that is pragmatic and practical. And I think he's all for the two-state solution. Not everybody on the Palestinian side are like him, but it's true also for the Israeli side. Not everybody on the Israeli side are with this opinion. But I think that with Abbas, as chairman of the Palestinian Authority, we have a partner with whom we can make an improvement. We can make a change. Unfortunately, he's very old. He's 87, I think. He's 87 years old. And he's not going to be there forever, okay? So I think we should take the opportunity as long as he is there. And he is open to this path, to take advantage of this and to move forward. I wouldn't like to wait for, some sort of a successor with whom I know nothing about, it's too risky, I think, and I think we should take the opportunity with Abbas.
Do you think the conditions right now are right for a two-state solution?
I think they are. Look, it's not going to be better. If we wait 3 years or 5 years, it's not going to change anything. Maybe there would be more settlements. So it would make things harder to solve. every day that we have some bloodshed, some people killed, some people wounded, it's a pity. It's if we have a way to prevent bloodshed on both sides, human lives matter, uh, then it's our obligation to do it. I see it also as as a very Jewish thing. I think as Jews, we should strive for peace. Of course, peace with security. We're not giving up our ability to defend ourselves and to our interest. Israel is strong, and Israel would remain strong and safe. But I think also peace can bring us a lot of stability. I think if you look back to the peace agreements we made with Egypt, with Jordan, with the Palestinian Authority, still they hold up after so many years. They secured our borders. They enabled us to become, a developed nation, to develop our economy. Um, this was a huge thing for the state of Israel. No more big wars like the Yom Kippur War, with thousands of people killed. We don't have those wars anymore because of the advancement we made with some other countries, with our neighbors. Now we're talking about maybe Saudi Arabia. That's a great thing. That's the way to do it. And I think with the Palestinians is the most important thing. I think it's possible. I think if you have the goodwill, you can do it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Horowitz. I'm going to bring on our board co-chair in just a minute to close this out, but I guess I wanted to give you a final opportunity to make any closing remarks, and maybe you could just touch on how you view the U.S.-Israel relationship now and the importance going forward too.
Well, I can say it frankly. I was quite happy when Biden was elected. I must say I was not in favor of the Trump presidency. Even though he was quite popular in Israel, I think he didn't serve Israel's best interests. And I think by promoting peace and stability, the US is doing Israel a great service. So I believe in promoting peace. As a Zionist, I'm all for peace. I think this is good for Israel. Now, we have a bond with the US, and it's very important for us. And the bond and also the relations with the US Jewish community. You are the biggest Jewish community in the world. And as a Zionist, I cherish this very much. And there is also much that we can learn from you, especially on the issue of religious tolerance. The religious tolerance that you have within the Jewish community, the different denominations, Reform, Orthodox, Conservative, Reconstructionist, the way you treat women in your congregations, this is admirable. I like it very much as an Israeli, and I think we have a lot to learn from you regarding that issue. So you see, we're two communities that have so much in common. We are the same people. We share so many values. Now, with our government in power and with your administration, your democratic administration in power, I think we can do many, many things together. Anyway, I must say, of course, there are people on the Republican side, and fine, it's fine, it's democracy. I think it was wrong for Netanyahu, as former prime minister, to put all the eggs in the Republican basket or on Trump's basket. I mean, this was wrong to get in conflict with the Obama administration over Iran. It was wrong to get this I don't know, confrontation with the majority of the Jewish community in the US, which is progressive. Yeah, I'm proud of that, but Netanyahu didn't like it so much. But I think from Israel's point of view, we have to maintain close relations with the Jewish community. And since the majority of the Jewish community in the United States is democratic, always was democratic, progressive, pro-human rights, pro-Israel, then we should we should connect to this majority of the Jewish community, and we should do things together with you, and we should respect you, and we should share with you, and you should share with us, and together we can do great things. And so I invite each and every one of you to visit Israel as our guests, and I'm always happy to visit the US, all my friends and family over there. And I hope that we're done with COVID and all the restrictions. And I wish you really all the best, guys, really all the best. And thank you for the support, and keep up the good spirit.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Horowitz. Well, I've learned so much from you. I sort of can speak on behalf of our entire team here. And it was just really a pleasure to have you here. And thanks for being so generous with your time today.
Thank you. Thank you. All the best.
I'm going to turn it over to our board co-chair, Todd Richmond. He is going to close us out of the event.
Minister, as always, it's a pleasure hearing from you, seeing from you on behalf of myself and my co-chair, Ann Lewis, our esteemed CEO and president, Mark Melman. Rachel, you did a great job, the entire staff, and of course, all of our members that are on today. We're so impressed with you, what you've done for Israel, the U.S.-Israel relationship, the LGBTQ community, for women, for health and safety of all Israelis. All of us at DMFI are so grateful that you could be here and take the time today. For the past 3 years, Democratic Majority for Israel has demonstrated that continuing to support the U.S.-Israel alliance, which is rooted in the shared values and America's national interest, is both good policy and wise strategy. And in just those 3 years, DMFI has supercharged pro-Israel politics, bringing voice, strength, advocacy, and action to the U.S.-Israel relationship. In states like California, where anti-Israel amendments have threatened to divide the Democratic Party at its conventions and in cities across the country, where extreme activists have proposed anti-Zionist resolutions, DMFI has rallied supporters, educated public officials, engaged local leaders to successfully defend Israel's legitimacy. In early states, DMFI has organized its supporters to ensure that candidates heard from pro-Israel Democrats, whether it was at town halls, forums, or in social media, something that was never done in the presidential primaries before. And we could not do this without all the work of the people that are here supporting DMFI. Your involvement with DMFI helps, keep the Democratic Party pro-Israel. It strengthens the U.S.-Israel relationship, and we are deeply grateful for all of our members. So we're encouraging everybody to sign on, stay in touch at dmfi.org. Follow us on social media at Dem Majority for Israel, DEMMAJ, the number 4, Israel. If you'd like to donate, click on our website at dmfi.org. You're going to see some of that on the screen right now. And Nitzan, we look forward to seeing you again